Good evening, you're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkha Dutt. On the program this evening, 60 minutes of a packed show, newsmakers as well as special debates and analysis. Our top story this evening continues to focus on the Ishrat Jahan case, a case that has led to a political storm between the BJP and the Congress. Tonight, we'll be asking whether the moral principle of due process is the central point of the debate and not whether Ishrat and others had links to terrorism or not. Also, in the age of Twitter, when most battles are fought online, or so it seems, how much of an impact will social media have on the way Indian politics is run and managed? On that debate, Shashi Tharoor and Chandan Mitra will be facing off later in the program.
When you don't play an active role on social media or in other forms of media, you end up in a position where, very frankly, the public gets one point of view from those who are active and there is no refutation. Alright, Shashi Tharoor, Chandan Mitra will be joining us later, but let's start straight with our news break tonight on the continuing focus on the Ishrat Jahan controversy. In details that are coming to NDTV, it's now a full-out agency war between the Intelligence Bureau, the CBI, as well as the NIA, the National Investigative Agency. NDTV has accessed a letter written by the Intelligence Bureau to the CBI in February 2013, that's this year, in which the IB continues to quote David Headley and says that David Headley pointed to terror links that Ishrat Jahan had. The NIA, however, did not include Headley's reference to Ishrat Jahan in its final report. NIA sources are telling NDTV that this omission was because the NIA, in its assessment, found Headley's comments based on hearsay and that Headley had absolutely no direct contact with Ishrat Jahan. Of course, the moral principle remains. Whether there were terror links or not, there is the question of due process of law and the fact that the CBI is arguing that a young girl, or a young woman rather, was killed in cold blood. But first, on the news break tonight, let's go to Sudhir Ranjan Sen and Sunetra Chaudhary. Sudhi, let me start with you. We do know that NDTV has accessed a letter written by the Intelligence Bureau in response to queries sought by the CBI, which has, of course, placed this explosive charge sheet in a Gujarat court, in which the Intelligence Bureau quotes what David Headley had said about Ishrat Jahan. Now, David Headley, we must clarify, has had no direct contact with Ishrat Jahan. This is not his own assessment. This is not his own information. He is really basing this on what Zakiur-Rehman Lakhvi has told him, and even Lakhvi is quoting another Lashkar commander. This letter that you have accessed, what does it say?
Well, Barkha, this letter says basically two things. One, it says that David Coleman Headley, in one of its meetings with Zakiur-Rehman Lakhvi, is put across to a man called Muzammil Bhatt, and there in the discussions, Lakhvi is talking about how Muzammil, had recruited Ishrat Jahan. And in fact, there is, from the statement that he has given, David Coleman Headley has given, it's very clear that there is some kind of a tussle between Lakhvi and Muzammil Bhatt, because Lakhvi goes on to say that he's a great LET commander. All his operations are going bust, including the one that, had Ishrat Jahan. And Ishrat Jahan has been killed by the Indian forces. Not only that, the CBI also in the letter talks about Basra, LET terrorists caught by the Kashmir J&K police, and in that letter they say Basra also talks about Ishrat Jahan and one of the people who were killed along with Ishrat Jahan on the 15th of June in 2004. Barkha.
Sudhi, let me also ask you this before I take this to Sunetra. The fact of the matter is that this did not make its way to the final report of the NIA. It's been a hugely contentious testimony, and in fact the NIA has dismissed it as hearsay. What is your information? The NIA case diaries did initially refer to it, but in the final analysis this reference was not included.
Well, yes, Barkha, and it's a very bizarre thing because we've been able to get, some, paperwork or get to some documents. And it seems that this particular reference of David Coleman Headley about Muzammil Bhatt talking about, Ishrat Jahan and her being killed by the Indian police was part of the NIA initial document. They form paragraphs 168 and 169. And in 169, the NIA quotes Headley saying that Headley stated that apart from this, that Muzammil Bhatt having recruited her and she getting killed in Gujarat, he had no other information or knowledge. But this, unfortunately, is not there in the copy that was subsequently circulated. And what we are being told is that the NIA chooses or chose to leave it out because it thought it was hearsay. So that is where it ends. Who took the decision? Why this decision was taken? We still have not been able to clearly establish. Barkha.
Let me take this to Sunetra Chaudhary. Sunetra, of course, has been tracking both the CBI perspective and the perspective of the National Investigative Agency. And what's important tonight is to underline the kind of a war, literally, that has erupted between the different agencies of this government when it comes to this case, Sunetra. Right now, I'm not even talking about the battle between the Congress and the BJP over this. But the fact of the matter is you have the IB essentially writing this on paper. They're obviously backing their own man, Rajendra Kumar, who has been not yet booked by the CBI, but certainly named as somebody who was involved in what the CBI believes was a grand, gigantic setup, a staged encounter, essentially a killing in cold blood. That's the CBI's assessment. Now, what I want to ask you is, what are your sources in the NIA saying? Because you have the IB arguing that Headley makes a reference to Ishrat Jahan, albeit second-hand, in the sense not based on any direct information of his own. But you have the NIA leaving this out in its final report.
Well, if the leaving and the change of it is not mysterious enough, what's also mysterious is what's actually happened to the statement and why CBI is not referring to it. Now, our sources tell us that they have an explanation. They say that if you get any kind of evidence from abroad, and here they had strict agreement, they said that they had to go into huge legal details with the FBI, and one of the agreements that they had with them was that it will not be used in any other case. Now, many others ask, well, that's fine. You don't have to use it legally as make it the basis of the Ishrat Jahan case and make it a legal document in that, but it can be used as a lead in other cases.
But Sunetra, the NIA is also saying, and this is important to underline, that they did not believe that Headley's comments on Ishrat constituted a direct source of information. They believed it was hearsay. They believed it was second-hand information.
Yes, in fact, one of those references that have been made in the exchanges are of saying that he said that he spoke to so-and-so, and through them it was always said. So that is why when they went to court in 2011, when Gujarat High Court took up the matter of Ishrat Jahan's encounter, at that time NIA was summoned by the magistrate.